Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd of February. I am Flatcap Callum and I'm hoping you are all very, very well. Alright, time of recording with the early hours of the 1st of February, so second video of the year, and we are now on the 32nd day of the year. So those of you been watching or not watching or know or follow, you know the crack. I'm having some time out. This is not the time of year where I get super excited in terms of January and February. So second vid is the DRF, the Dublin Racing Festival, for those of you uninitiated. Arguably the best weekend, like dual weekend meeting of jumps racing, possibly in the whole calendar in terms of UK and Ireland. Because the Christmas, the Leopardstown meeting is spread over 4 days. There's some really good festivals that exist around, and good days of racing, but some really good stuff at Leopardstown Saturday and Sunday. 8 Grade 1 races, there's Grade 2 bumpers and bits, and 5 really competitive handicaps with good prize money. So you've got some interesting horses in there as well. So really, really good weekend. So I am back to do a video for the whole weekend, so I'm covering Saturday and Sunday, and the plan is beyond this. I've got the channel meetup, so for those of you who are not aware, we've got a channel meetup next Saturday at Newbury for Betfair Hurdle. Saturday, that's the 8th. Come along if you would like. It's entirely up to you. You've got to pay your entrance ticket, you've got to find me. I'll be wearing a flat cap, as will probably quite a few other people. It's a horse racing meeting, isn't it? The plan would be I will do a video probably on the Friday night ahead of Saturday racing, and I think that may well be it for me until Cheltenham Festival, unless I find something I'm not expecting. There's certainly not like a decent quality meeting that I would likely come on and do. So it's whether I find a day where I think there's some really, really cracking stuff, and I think I might put a little extra video up. So the plan is this video on the 7th of February for the 8th of February racing, and that might be then it until Cheltenham Festival, and then I'll come back and do Cheltenham Festival. That is my current agenda for you. If you're new to the channel, I play a high risk strategy, so bigger price horses and putting them into accumulators. I go against what the vast majority of folk do, and will tell you how to win, which is, people would back singles, short prices and all that jazz. The aim of the game, right, whichever way you play, if you want to win, you've got to be on the value, and the value is a horse that as odds is higher than it should be. Now, however you choose to decide that, whether you want to sort of play some fiddly things on Betfair Exchange, or whether, like what I do, is actually form read, a bit of a form monkey. I make my own books and my own prices, and I'll work out for myself where I think the horses are priced, and then I'm looking for the biggest differential. So the biggest, what I think the price should be compared to where it is. And if I think it should be much, much shorter, and the market has placed it on a big price, therefore I see that as an opportunity. And the way that I play the game like that is each way accumulators. So I've bet most, all my adult life and a bit before, through the years of the way that I do things, what I know is that putting them into accumulators long term will ultimately yield more return than it will do betting my horses single. It might be different for what you do or anyone else does, but for what my stuff is, better that way. The challenge sometimes is you can be on all the right horses but not put them in the right bet, and that's always a risk. So small stakes, potential for high return, but actually most likely losing. So I lose more days than I win. I lose vast majority more days than I win. But the aim is that the winning days outweigh the losing days in terms of profit. I don't guarantee any profit on here. It's entirely up to you what you do with it. All I will say to you is that all of the channel statistics since the history of the channel are in the description below, so you can have a little look and you can make your own findings. Unlike you might see elsewhere, there's no massage figures in there and whatnot. Those are the true figures from the history of when the channel existed. You can make your choices of what you do with that. The other thing, it's free, right? It's always been free. It always will be free. There's never a point I'm just going to sneakily let you know I've got a premium service for £5 or whatever like that, or charge you £50 a month, or like, just true fact, folks. Just because something you pay for it doesn't mean it's better than when it's free. That's true, right? So if you buy a drink in a bar as opposed to your mate gives you one for free, does the one that you buy taste better than the one you've been given for free? No, it doesn't. So that would be a true fact. Likewise, just because something is expensive doesn't mean it's better than something that is cheaper. So, yeah, I do what I do, you do what you do, folks. That's where we're at. Right, what we're going to do on this video, I'm going to do it differently, and some won't like it, and they'll be annoyed, and others will go for that. So I appreciate it, Callum. Thanks for doing that. So I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it, and then you can make your own choices. So the staking plan I've got for the weekend is 3 bets. 3 bets. 1 Saturday bet, 1 Saturday Sunday combination double bet, and 1 Sunday bet. Total stake for the channel. So I'm putting this on in with real cash for the channel. It's not representative of the money I put on myself personally. This is what I do for the channel. £24. So if you want to copy what the channel is doing, £24, but you could halve it, quarter it, double it, whatever you want to do. What I would say is gamble within your means. This is supposed to be fun, right? This isn't about get rich quick or all that sort of jazz, right? So put the money on with the expectation you get none back. The way I design my betting strategies in terms of staking plans specifically for the channel is I'm trying to put a fun element in there, that therefore that you've got interest in different places at different times. I'm also trying to do that whilst not compromising on what I believe to be the value or the best opportunities. So it's not a precise science, and clearly you won't get it right all the time. So I'm going to put the horses out in the way that I've done it. You can make your own choices, whether you want to just pick out all the big prices or all the ones in Ireland or all the ones not in Ireland or whatever it might be. I'll give you the plan. So the way that I'm going to do the video, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to say, that's going to annoy some and not others. Because it's a bit special, the DRF, and I'm not doing this year like I have done previously, some anti-post Cheltenham videos. I am going to take the opportunity to go through before I give you the bets. So if you want the bets, you might want to scroll on much further. I'm going to go through each race in Ireland. Not going to spend ages on it, but I'm a bit like, like there's the Queen's speech or the King's speech and there's an alternative. I'm going to give you the alternative. There's a billion podcasts out there that will argue and debate about which of the Mullins horses might win which race. I'm not going to go into that sort of stuff. I'm going to give you my alternative angle, and I'm also going to give you a nod or a wink to things I may have done at Cheltenham or things I may be doing at Cheltenham in terms of betting. So that is the intention of going through it all. So I'm going to go through each race across the 2 days in Ireland, and then at the end I'm going to go through what are the actual bets I'm doing for the channel for the weekend. But I will allude to other stuff which is entirely up to you. But anything else I may suggest in terms of I've bet that, I'm not necessarily saying bet it now because I may have got it at a better price. I might just tell you what I'm doing. I also then might say this is something I'm probably going to look at betting on. But if I am saying that, I'm not putting any money down for the channel, okay? So the proper stuff, the stuff that I think is worth putting out that other people can copy, that's the bets at the end. But I'll give you my alternative view of the DRF, where I'll probably talk more about some of the bigger priced horses. For those of you who are not familiar, Willie Mullins is all over the DRF. Last year, unbelievably, he won all 8 Grade 1 races. This year, he's got the favourite in all bar one of them, and in most of them, he's got the second and third favourite as well. A lot of the other trainers have sort of stayed away a little bit. Elliot's not necessarily put all of his best horses out at all. De Bromhead, who would be probably your third best trainer in Ireland in terms of statistics, he's out of form, so it's difficult to know whether you can trust what he's doing. Not trust him, but as in trust the horses are running to form is what I would say. So when you get to see my actual staking plan, there is not a Mullins horse to be found on it. So just to manage anyone's expectations, there isn't no shorties. I think 13-2 there might be. All right. Are you still with me? We're 10 minutes in. Right. I've got a reference because I can't literally remember every single race off my head. So I will go through it in order. Starting on Saturday, you've got Nathaniel Lacey, which is the 2 mile 6 novice hurdle. So this is the type of race where horses that might go on to run in the Albert Bartlett at Cheltenham, or possibly even the Turners novice hurdles. They're the two sort of middle and long distance hurdle races for novices at Cheltenham. In this race, as I've said in most races, you've got a Mullins favourite. Paul Townend will be in most of the favourites. Final Demand. For me, this sort of race, when I look at it, is I want a horse with a bit more experience in there. Final Demand. It's got two races on the board, albeit come first past the post in both of them. I'd want a horse a bit further on in terms of a bit more experience. So I think it's easily overlooked. And actually, between that and Super Sunday, the two Mullins horses at the top of the market, I'd absolutely rather have a bet on Super Sunday than Final Demand, given what I've seen. You've actually then got Mullins has got the first four, and then you get down, and you get down, and you get down. And actually, I think there's some interesting horses here at a price. And particularly for this race, Betfred, Betfair and Sky, and this is important when we get to Stake and Plan a bit later, they are the three bookmakers, Betfred, Betfair and Sky, who are paying 4 places on this race. I think there's some really good opportunity here to have a bit of an each way punt on this race. So it absolutely is in the Staking Plan because, I think each way terms for those three bookmakers particularly make it really, really appealing, particularly as this Mullins horse is getting shorter and shorter and shorter at the top of the market. So things to note further down. Wingmen. That's already had a bit of money coming in. I think from a pricing point of view, there's absolutely value in the price of backing that horse each way in this race. For the whole season, it's been my Albert Bartlett horse. It's still an okay price for the Albert Bartlett, but I don't think, unless it comes and does something a bit special here, the price is going to change much in Albert Bartlett. So I wouldn't be saying to anybody, you want to be having a little look anti-post. But it's absolutely a horse I'm expecting, if it stays a double figure price, for me to be interested in when we get to Cheltenham and when we get to Albert Bartlett. They've been, so it basically won a decent enough first race, and then the last couple of times they've been trying different stuff with it, and basically what I expected to happen. So first time over sort of a middle distance, it won a nice race, and then they sent it over to Cheltenham. In my view, it was all for the experience. I wouldn't have touched it with a barge pole with money. And then last time it was a credible third behind Yellow Clay after doing some good work up front. But yeah, I think the horse will get 3 miles. So interesting for the Albert Bartlett. I do think it's an okay bet for Saturday, but I've got better. I think another one in there. There's 3 I was going to mention. Pray Tell is another one in that race that I think there's a bit of value in there. You've got Small Time Yard. It will always make the price of the horse push up artificially, but it's actually got some really solid form in the context of this race. If it was trained by Mullins, it would be a much, much shorter price, simple as that. And then also right down the bottom, currently rank outsider of the whole lot, you've got World of Fortunes, trained by Liam Kenny, again, small time trainer. But if you look at this horse, last time it was 4th into July Flower, which I think is turning out to be quite a decent horse. Probably will go on and run a decent race in the Mayor's Hurdle. I think that horse is. I think that race, interestingly enough, at Leopardstown, where this World of Fortunes was 4th last time, it was a funny way the race ran out, because there was 3 of them that went off, and then others struggled to catch up. And July Flower did catch them up, and World of Fortunes is the one that didn't quite do it. But other than that, it was on a three race winning streak. And I think it's battle hardened, and I would like that in a race like this. The question mark is, Leopardstown last time was the only time it's gone at Leopardstown. So is there a little bit of a, maybe Leopardstown's not its track? There's a little query there. And certainly most of its best form has been on good ground. The challenge you've got for Leopardstown for this weekend is, it's been dry in the build-up, but there's potential rain Saturday night into Sunday. And each course, Chase and Hurdles, is running slightly differently. The Hurdles course is looking softer if you actually read what the current going suggestion is, and the Chase course is yielding. Leopardstown does tend to dry out quite quickly, so by the time we actually get to racing, it's very difficult. What you know is the race. It's unlikely the racing is going to be good, and it's unlikely it's going to be heavy. Be somewhere in between, but it's quite wide in between good and heavy. So yeah, I think on you're going either yielding or soft. So you're taking a bit of a leap of faith with that horse if you want to back it for the ground. But actually, from a form point of view, I think I think it's good form. I mean, that race, it was 4th of July Flower. That July Flower only had Calaconti 4 lengths behind it. And actually, if you look at prices for things like the Mayor's Hurdle, depending on what goes to the Mayor Hurdle in terms of Brighter Days Ahead, Lossiemouth, that kind of stuff, like some of the key players, I think Calaconti might turn out to be actually a decent each way bet at 20s at the moment. If you say 20s, if you go anti-post, most of the stuff I would be doing or looking at the moment, I wouldn't be going non-runner no bet, because the prices are so much shorter non-runner no bet. Whereas I think there's value at 20 to 1. I think if you went non-runner no bet Calaconti, you might be looking at 12s. But I think the horse is very likely to run in the race. Excuse me. And if Brighter Days Ahead runs in the Champion Hurdle, which I think it should do, and I'll get onto that later, then actually I think it might be Elliot's number 1 horse in the Mayor's Hurdle. And I think Calaconti is an interesting bet, 21 each way in the Mayor's Hurdle. All right, there we go. First race. I won't be going into that detail in every single race. Next one, 150 is the juvenile race. Dead 8 runners. Mullins has got the favourite now. He's got the favourite. Well, yeah, because looking at this, St. Lucy's gone into favouritism. He's got 3rd favourite, 4th favourite, and 5th favourite. I'm just not touching the race, to be honest. I'm not going to give you any view on it, really, in that these are the types of horses in these juvenile divisions, when you're building up to, these are the types of ones that might go in the Triumph Hurdle, possibly drop into the Boodles handicap hurdle. They beat each other, and there's nothing stand out. If you look at the UK horses, the UK based horses, certainly East India, Dock, and Alhambra are looking like, on paper, they've done more than any of the Irish ones. You could have a horse in this race that absolutely turns everything over and wins by a street and really, really kicks on, and then suddenly that might be in favouritism in the Triumph. I'd say East India Dock looks better than Alhambra from what I've seen, but it's not Triumph's not a race I would be betting in anti-post, full stop, and sometimes I wouldn't even bet on it on the day. But yeah, 150 the juvenile, I'm leaving that, because I can't see. I can see the favourites beating each other and not sure which way that's going to go, and I can't see the value further down with some of the bigger prices. All right, then you've got the 225, which is the biggest field handicap of the weekend. 26 runners. It's a 3-mile hurdle. You've got an absolute shorty favourite. So not only is Mullins going to dominate the Grade 1s, allegedly, he probably will in terms of winning, but in the handicaps he's got some really good ones in the handicaps. So this race here, it's got Meeting of the Waters, which is ridiculously much rated higher in a chase race than what it's got here. So it'd have to be significantly underperforming to not be framing in this sort of race. So I think it's a bit of it's a savvy move to do this and shove it in this race, because it gives it good fitness. It might have other chase targets down the line, but if they go and win by a street here, they've not lost anything on the chase mark. But I wouldn't want to touch it as a bet, because 26 runners, strange things happen. And so for me, no, I'd be looking over it. Second favourite is the Cromwell horse. Both JP McManus won, Percival Legalwa. It'd be too short for me in a 26 runner. If I look further down, you've got at the moment 3rd favourite, it's a Gaelic sounding name, I'll never get this right. Gaith Quill, something like that. It's the Ted Welsh one. I think if there was less runners, and if you go back 24 hours, you probably could have got 16s on this. 11 to 1 3rd favourite. I probably wouldn't fancy that in there. And then there was one other I was going to mention the race if I go down, because it's 26 runners. Wasn't going to spend ages on it. I think an interesting runner, if you can get a better price for it, so it might be one to look at for Bog. So best price guaranteed on the day is Iceberg Theory, which is a Paul Nolan horse. I think actually, if you look at its last few runs, it's actually been well fancied to do something and not quite achieved maybe what the expectation was. But this time around, the price is gone massive. And if that horse runs to form, then I think the price could look, it's touching 40s in places. 28s would probably be more like your general price. It might be worth looking at. If I would want to get 40s, that's what I would say to you. That would be. I'm not saying it can't frame at 25-1 and 5 places or whatever, but because you've got this really short favourite, even though 26 runners, most bookies don't even want to give you 6-way places because there's too much value then pushing up into the each way market because you've got the shorty, and then there's lots of horses that will be artificially bigger for their each way price. So it's not a race I would want to go big on at all, but there's a few mentions in there. Then we go into 255, which is the Arkle. So it's on paper Madgeborough against Il Atlantique. For my money, I would absolutely much rather be on Il Atlantique than Madgeborough. I'll absolutely accept it if I'm proved wrong with Madgeborough, but I don't think it's as good as what the hype says. So if you watch this video after the race and I got it wrong. But the thing is, I'm not here to sit on the fence, or I'm not being paid by a bookmaker to say something or not something. So that's the way I read it. I read it as I think Antique will turn out to be a better horse than Madgeborough. We'll see. That's where I'd put my money between the two. If you go further down, there's clearly a couple of big prices in there you might want to overlook. And then you've got to debate, is either of the Elliott horses going to get ahead of any of the Mullins horses? So Touch Me Not on Firefox. I think in both you could argue a case they could do. Firefox hasn't quite lived up to expectations this season. But again, if you look at anti-post for the Arkle, if it does anything here, the 20-1 that you can get anti-post, not non-runner, no bet, anti-post market, that 20-1 could look like a decent enough price, I would say. But from a betting perspective in the race, yeah, if I was into backing shorties, I'd probably take Il Atlantique to beat Madgeborough, but I'm not. So, and then we get to the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup, I think, is one of the most interesting races of the whole weekend. And I've spent a lot of time trying to get an angle on it, right? So, Galopin Des Champs should win the race. That's true fact. Fact to file, on paper, is the second best horse in the race and should come second. Now, I wouldn't be interested in having a bet on either of those. Where I'm looking at is then what might come placed alongside those two. So if those two run to form and they come first or second, can you get something decent at a price? And there's a whole bunch of very interesting angles sat there behind. So you've got Embassy Gardens that clearly overachieved last time, but that was at Tremor on heavy ground. It's a funky track and heavy ground. I wouldn't want to take that form as literal, so I'd walk past Embassy Gardens. Next in the line is Monty Star. I've mentioned about de Bromhead's horses. They're not running to form. He tends to try and peak things at Cheltenham. And on that basis, I wouldn't want to touch the horse in this race. And actually, I think there's a little bit more hype on this than there should be. So I'm taking an angle on I'm against Madgeborough, and I'd say to you I'm against Monty Star as good as what hype is. And then you go, okay, now you're into like 20-1 shots. So I know the way you're thinking's a Cromwell horse. And I think on actual what it's done in terms of how it ran Leopardstown at Christmas, you could say it looks like a potentially interesting bet for third place. Now, I think this horse actually might be a good shout for a Grand National horse. Because I Am Maximus is currently the favourite, which is in this race. We'll get to that in a minute. And that is an obvious JP horse to follow up from last year, trying to do a bit of a tiger roll, like probably bumped up at least £10, and can it go in again? And actually, I think I know the way you're thinking. If they run that horse downfield in this race, and even maybe one other, you might find it sat on quite an interesting handicap mark for the Grand National, because I think it's got potential as a bit of a stayer in there, and I think it's got a little bit of class about the horse. And so, yeah, I think you can get in place, I think 25-1, 5 places, 33-1, 4 places for the Grand National. I'm not one for suggesting you want to back Grand National generally anyway, or even massively anti-post. But I think if that horse, if they ultimately decide that's where it might be aiming at, and you can see it, so if it runs well here and it comes third or whatever, then I probably wouldn't be looking at Grand National. But if it comes down the field here, it'd be interesting to see where the price in the market the Grand National goes, because I think you want to drop it a couple of pounds for it to be for being looking like a better thing there. So that'd be interesting. Hewick is definitely on its day, can do it, but I'm not sure about the Shark Landlin horses whilst he's not training them and what the situation there. It's a bit like when Elliott wasn't horse training it and Denise Foster was. You then get to Iron Maximus, which rightly so, people are going to assume is going for the Grand National and trying to do a Tiger Roll. But on actual form of how it ran in the spring last year, easily is the third best horse in this race. And you can get 66 to 1 on it. But whether you would want to take that against all of these other uncertainties, again, I'm not sure, because I don't think it's going to be dropping down the handicap mark much. And I think if it runs the Grand National this year £10 higher, even if it goes off some sort of shorter price, it wouldn't be one for me at all. And then you get down and you go, well, Grange Clare West, that will look like a great horse a while ago, and it's not really done anything since, but could bounce back, and I could absolutely see a case where that one could come third. Manila Kakuna, I think they're definitely aiming that at spring nationals. Which one, not sure. And then right at the bottom, you've got Conflated, 150 to 1. That is an absurd price for a horse that actually, up until 12 months ago, well, even Ryanair last year, was running really, really well, and it's not run so well this year, and that's a massive price. And it's Elliot's horse with Sam Ewing, who is number one jockey at the moment for Gigastown, and you sat there, you can get 150 to 1 on the thing. My theory with that one is, I wonder whether ultimately the target there is across country. It's got the Gigastown sort of feel for a classy horse, run it down a little bit and see. And now because the cross country is a handicap this year at Cheltenham, where it wasn't for the last few years, you'd need to get the mark of the horse down a little bit. And so, yeah, I've got a little bit of a niggly feeling on whether or not Conflated might actually be a cross country horse. So that's that. You'll find out, but I'll give you the punchline. I didn't take anything for the staking plan. I found it too muddly. You've then got the 405, which is a handicap, and actually, I went through it and I just didn't have a view, to be honest, at all. There was nothing interesting enough for me to have a look at. I could see a case where you could say some big prices might make the top 4, but it wasn't something I had a particular view or interest in, so I left it. And then I got to the 435, which is the bumper. The bumpers look, they're fun. I mean, they're funny old races, some of these, because you're trying to look. If you look at the history of some of these bumpers at this meeting at Leopardstown, you've got horses that might have run well in like August, September last year, and then you've not seen them since, and then they pop up here. There isn't so many of those. But what I do think is interesting, there's a race at Leopardstown. It was last day of the Leopardstown meeting at Christmas, and it's usually throws up some interesting horses down the line. And Sortudo is the one where I think actually on what they've done in this field, I think it's got the best piece of form. But it'll be interesting to see, because it was, where was it? It was second at Leopardstown at Christmas, and the horses that were both mares were first and third, were quite close. They're both running in the bumper on Sunday. So if this horse does anything particularly good, you'd absolutely want to be focusing on them for Sunday. But yeah, I think bumpers are funny because a lot of people ignore them, and I end up finding angles often in a bumper. And I give you a little bit of a clue. Of 9 horses I'm backing in my 2 main bets for the weekend, I have got 3 bumper horses. three bumper horses. So yeah, there's a hint there. I might be taking Sortudo. So that's that. Right, so that's day 1. And then day 2, Leopardstown. I'm going to spin through this a little bit quicker because there's bigger field handicaps and stuff. Right, so the first one is you've got this massive 20 runner handicap, mares handicap hurdle. You've got the Harry Derham target horse, Queen's Gamble, that will go off short favourite. It may well win, but it's going to give me an opportunity to look for something else further down the field. You've got quite a few in here that are quite unexposed. And stepping into handicap for the first time. You got Vicio, which is a horse I've backed many times, which is now switched stables to Emmett Mullins, but from a price point of view, it's probably pretty prohibitive as far as I would look at it. And then I found myself looking at the form from last year. So the same race last year, and you got a couple in there. Media Naranja, which we backed time before last, and it placed for us in a nice accumulator where I think we already had a couple of winners. And Bricio, which if you go off jockey bookings is the second choice of the ownership, but won the race last year really, really well, and hasn't really done much since, and has only basically cut up a few pounds. And so if it comes up in that sort of form, there's no reason why it won't run a really, really big race at a nice price. Median Orange was 4th in that race and generally runs pretty consistently in these big field handicaps. And I like Carl Miller riding for Gordon Elliott in his handicaps, still claiming 5. Often puts up a performance. Doesn't always win them, but often will put up a performance. So a couple of interesting angles in there outside of the sort of the Queen's Gamble route that a lot of folk will be looking at. Then we've got the Novice Chase. This is the Ballyburn versus Impere Pass versus Champ Kiley Mullins gig. I mean, it's tricky. I at the start of the season, I thought Impere Pass was a Brown Advisory horse. I mean, I say that it would have been in the mid-distance Novice Chase race had it still existed, but I actually had it as Brown Advisory, and I wasn't so keen on Ballyburn. And it'd be interesting. I'm really interested to see how this race pans out because, I wouldn't be backing any of them at the Brown Advisory at the odds they are at the moment. But I think this race has got the potential to really change the market in there. So I don't think Ballyburn should be as short as it is. But I think broadly the market has them in the right sort of order. The one I thought would be interesting at a price and is not in the channel bets, I'll tell you that. But if you are 365, I think it's worth a little look because they are standout price on Croke Park at 20-1. This horse has done nothing wrong. It's battled away to get its nose in front the last 3 times. It's more proven than some of these that are still trying to sort of stake a claim. I'm not looking at Croke Park for a Brown Advisory, but even in this race, I think it's got potential to upset the Mullins horses potentially. Because you look down the field and you've got Prairie Dancer, which I've had in my my notebook for a while. That it's although it's won the last 2 races, I'm sure they're mucking about with it to try and put it in some sort of handicap at a decent mark. I'm just not sure what one, and I wouldn't go anywhere near the right bottom one. So it's a 7 runner, but I'm ruling out 2. That gives you 5 runners, and the question is, can Croke Park get ahead of 2 of the Mullins horses? I think it's potential to find out at 20-1. Rest of markets are sort of somewhere between 11s and 12s, 14s a little bit. I think that's probably 14s. I'd probably play it myself. 11s and 12s a little bit short to find out, I would say, but you're going to get a quarter of the odds. So 20-1, 365. If you've got a 365, worth looking at. Then we get into the Novice Hurdles. This is prep for the Supreme. It's an interesting one. So. Again, I've told you I'm not so keen on Madgeborough. I'm waiting to see with these Mullins horses in this race. So Quebec de Bourdais and Cade Dorothy. I think they both still need to prove it. These are potential horses that if any of them spank this race, will suddenly go in to be vying for favouritism with the Supreme with Salvatore Mundi. I'm not sold on that horse either. I really just don't think there's anything stand out in the Supreme Novice at the moment. But yeah, I absolutely think you could take on both these Mullins horses in this race. So I've had to start and have a look down what else you could have in there. I think Blue Devassi for Gordon Elliott is more proven than either of these 2. So if they don't step on and improve, then Blue Devassi's the one that should come and take it. You've then got Redemption Day, that was a cracking bumper horse. First time on hurdles was very poor, so that could step on. Warren Great Tricks has sent a horse over in there, which I find fascinating, good and clever. So he's clearly trying to pick up some level of prize money. It'd be interesting to see how that horse performs and be able to look at the form lines with the UK-based horses. And then you go down and you've got some horses that have mixed but have been beaten at points, and then even when you go right down the bottom, Eastern Legend 100-1 for Jim Bolger. Keith Donahue's riding it. It's good jockey, and if some of these ones aren't anything special, that horse absolutely is got chances of potentially even scraping a place, I would say. But I think if you like playing in the side markets, Eastern Legend, like if you can get top 5, I think that's an interesting play for a bet on that. I wouldn't put anyone off that one. Then we've got the 2:10, which is the Dublin Chase on Sunday. So this is prep for the Champion Chase. Gaelic Warrior's a funny old horse, isn't it? Clearly was brilliant at Cheltenham last year, but as it's off days, and I wouldn't want to be getting involved at the prices. Marine National's another one, a bit mercurial, could run a great race. And if you go down, some of the ones, the experienced ones, they're too inconsistent for doing it. Solness clearly was brilliant last time, but people don't sort of believe it's going to back it up. But it's got the form in the book from last time. And I go for the race, and the short version is I found myself looking at El Fabiolo going, if they all run to form, that horse should beat all of these comfortably. That's where I got to. Now, it's been off, and when we last saw it got beaten by John Bond, but the time before that in the Champion Chase, it ran no sort of race. It looked like it was run into the fences at points, but if that horse is back to its near its best, I think that horse is better than all these. I was having a look whether there's an angle that you could back it Champion Chase. I think it's 12-1 anti-post, and it's 6-1 non-runner no bet. It was roughly speaking. You get 6-1 in this race, so if I'm between the two, I'd rather back it 6-1 non-runner no bet for the Champion Chase, because it runs a cracking race in here. It will be way shorter, and if it runs a dud race, then actually they might not even take it to the Champion Chase. So that's my conclusion. I'm not saying it's a brilliant bet, but what I'm saying is I think that 6-1 non-runner no bet for the Champion Chase is better than 6-1 in this race, arguably. Just because, if it wins, it'll be shorter, and if it does nothing, then I don't think it'll turn up there. So you get your money back. Then we got the 245, which is mid-distance handicap chase. There's some interesting horses in here, again, sort of stepping up and trying things for the first time. But I definitely think it's worth looking at the bottom end of the market. There's some really interesting horses in there. I think Aim Deji, one of William Mullins' horses, I think probably is going to be aimed more in the spring at stuff. But I think it's got potential if they try it to frame in a race like this. Rianne's the one that most interests me. For those of you who remember last year, backed it in the same corresponding race at 50-1. And it was a great second, and it's not done brilliant stuff since, but they're putting it back out in this race. Danny Gilligan's on it. They're putting cheap pieces on it for the first time, and you can get a variety of prices out there. So if you shop around, you can get 33s, but that wouldn't be a fair price if I was putting in channel bets. You know what I mean? Okay, then we got the Irish Champion Hurdle. You're obviously thinking it's Lossiemouth versus Stateman. I haven't got a place angle on this one. Lossiemouth, Stateman. What do I think? I think on its day, Stateman's a far better horse than Lossiemouth. That's what I would say. I would like Stateman to get back to form and spank Lossiemouth, because if that happens, I think they'll put Lossiemouth in the mares and not run her in the Champion Hurdle. And I think that would mean Brighter Days Ahead would then go in the Champion Hurdle and not the Mares Hurdle, because I actually think Brighter Days Ahead is the real deal. So I think Brighter Days Ahead is a decent bet for the Champion Hurdle. Obviously, they've decided not to bring it out this weekend. But I think that's the only one that can contend with Constitution Hill. And with Constitution Hill, shade of odds on, I think last time I checked, Brighter Days Ahead in the anti-post market 4-1. It's a far better bet. So if Lossiemouth sort of doesn't, I can't. I think I want Stateman to beat Lossiemouth, so Lossiemouth doesn't go here, so goes to the mares, which makes them think they'll put Brighter Days Ahead in the Champion Hurdle, because then they think that it's going to be a 3-horse race between Stateman, Constitution, and Brighter Days Ahead. I think Brighter Days Ahead would beat Stateman, and therefore I think it would be. Do you want try for first, might get second in the Champion Hurdle, or do you want to win the Mares Hurdle? And I think you want to. I would rather try and win the Champion Hurdle with Brighter Days Ahead than think I'll just take the consolidation race. That's me. Right, that's my thought on that one. 350. Where are we at? 350. That's a handicap hurdle, 2 miles. Loads of horses in here stepping into handicap for the first time, so it's really hard to kind of go. What would you take and what you wouldn't? And you've got things in there like Toon Savator that won a Grade 2 race, and now it's shoved back in here. It's fascinating, interesting horses in there. Horses that haven't run, like High Wind, have not run for ages. I think Brian Hayes has got some interesting riding in some of these lesser, in theory, lesser horses. The one that I would call out to you that I think is way underestimated by the market is Irish Panther. Right in there on a featherweight. You've got small time jockey on it in Cian Callaghan, claiming 7. It changed yards a couple of runs ago, but from a form perspective, I think it's really good. It was third last time in a novice handicap hurdle at Leopardstown at the Christmas meeting, and if it runs to form, I've got no reason why that horse won't be competitive here, and it's a nice price. And you look back, and it did some interesting stuff in its maidens and things as well. And I think just because it's from a less glamorous yard, it will get overlooked by the market. First time hood, be interesting to see whether that makes a difference to it as well. But yeah, I think interesting one. And then we get to the other bumper, and yeah, I think it's this race at Leopardstown. If that horse on the first day does anything, then Carrickmore and Spruce, the Declan Queally horse, would look interesting. But the one I would draw your attention to is right near the bottom, which has been a big old drifter, Switch from Diesel. Now trained by Ross O'Sullivan. This horse ran in the same race last year and was second, and that was off the back of coming third at this funky race at Leopardstown. And this year this season it's come third again. This is like a almost third season, but second season bumper, which you don't get very many of. But the form's in the book, so if there's nothing special in this race, which I don't think there might be one, but something like I'd be interested to see like Amen Kate, how that gets on. I think it's got an interesting profile. But Switch from Diesel, I think absolutely could outrun the odds at 33-1. It's cracking bet to try and find out. It runs well in decent bumpers. Run well at Leopardstown every time it's come to Leopardstown. And yeah, they're obviously continuing it in bumpers. This will probably be the last time it's no bumper. I think it must be out of qualification for that. But yeah, interesting horse. All right, there we go. I've chunted on. Now I'll spin you through the quick bets. All right, folks. Well done if you stay to the end. If you've zoomed on to the end, welcome back. You've missed some incredible nuggets. All right, so bet one. This is the bet one, and what I should say is there's 3 horses, well, a few horses in here lurking that are not on the DRF. So Saturday, the conclusion was 1:15 Leopardstown. I will play World of Fortunes. I'm absolutely suggesting to you want Sky, Betfred or Betfair to get the 4th place. 28s is the fair price. You can get 33s in most other places, but 28s for 4 places is fair. And then we're going to go play one horse at Musselburgh. I have looked at Sandown, but the heavy going put me right off. So 2:17 at Musselburgh. Freddie Robinson. It wasn't that long ago. It was only like a week ago it ran. But the horse has got good form at Musselburgh. And yeah, when I look through it, I've got no reason the horse won't run a better race, run a decent race. Charlie Maggs is booked to ride it, who's been doing some good things this season, and had picked up some Saturday winners as well. So Freddie Robinson 11-1. I think it will go shorter. It was bigger than that. 16s about 24 hours ago, but I still think 11s is a good price. We're going to go 4:22 in the middle of all this interesting Leopardstown stuff. I'm sticking a horse in at the bumper at Wetherby. Vienna Pearl, Andrew Cook, Connor Rabbit is not the combo that most people look for. That horse, there's quite a few all in a similar vein, all similar, run to a similar standard, but the market will put that much bigger because of the connections. That horse absolutely can outrun its odds. Last time it was like third at 100-1. I don't think I had money. I was keeping an eye on it. Didn't have money on it. It was a bit of a sickener, but 16s today. I think that's a good price. So we are trying that. So those are my 2 outside of Leopardstown. And then the 4:35 Leopardstown, we're going to go Sortudo. So unfortunately, I'm not getting involved in the handicaps at Leopardstown on the first day, and nor in some of the more glamorous races. But you've heard my thoughts. So 25p each way Yankee, 50p each way singles, World of Fortunes and Vienna Pearl, and a 75p win single on Freddie Robinson. 8.25. Sky's the best bookie for extra places, but not for prices. And then Betfred or Betfair. And then 365 Paddy, Unibet, Betway or Coral would be your next best bookies, because they are 4 places on this Musselburgh race. So for the channel, unless something changes, we're taking 4, 4, 3 and 3. 8.25. That's bet 1. That's the full Saturday bet. Oh no, I just remembered about bet 2. Oh, there's going to be some size. So this is my combination double bet, folks. All right. Yes, I've got a handicap at Leopardstown on Sunday, and yes, you are quite right. I haven't lost my mind. I'm actually persevering with Wolverhampton. I'm actually putting a race up in Wolverhampton. It's a decent quality. It's class 3 handicap on Saturday. The 440. I think the market's not got it quite right in that race. And Civil Law, Eagle Day are both well overpriced. Both should be single figures. So see, Civil Law 14s, Eagle Day 16s. And I've put that with the 1240, these two horses that are coming back for more from last year. Brusio and Midian Orange, 20s and 22s. They're the fair prices. You can get 25s on Paddy Power for those. Sky are an extra place on that race compared to everybody else. No extra places there. The bet here is 4 times 50p each way doubles. So you put them all 4 in your bet slip, and there is 4 combinations. It costs £4. So we're wanting to get at least 1 framer in each race to make a profit. £4. 2 in one and 1 in the other, we'll be really happy. All framers, over the moon. 2 winners, oh, we'll be excited with that one. £4 the bet, that's bet 2. So that's Saturday racing at Wolves, that's Sunday at Leopardstown, just to be clear. And then the big bet, the main bet, is actually the Sunday. And I have got 5 horses and 4 of them at Leopardstown with 1 at Musselburgh. All right, bet 3, 140 Leopardstown. I've had to go really, really fair on there because you can get 17-2 outstanding price, 8-1 in lots of bookmakers. But if in order to achieve the betting advice, if you were betting the 365 Paddy Betway with the others, then I have to take 13-2 to be fair. So I'm not sure what the market's going to do with the horse. To be honest, it might drift on that one. And I don't think it would be a bad thing even to put it in as SP. To be fair, if you're putting this on. So yeah, for the channel, I didn't want to complicate it, but I would. It's not a bad thing to put that in as SP. So 13-2 Blue Devassi in the 140, 245. Again, we're going back for seconds from last year. Rian 25s, I think, is the best price you can get. No, 33s maybe actually, but 20s is the fair one. So Rian at 20s. And then I've stuck one in at Musselburgh. I think the market doesn't know what to do with this 335 Musselburgh. It's like 10 runners or something, and you've got about 11-2 the field. So I think basically that horse will end up being much, much shorter when the market sorts itself out. So I think there's an opportunity with Mint Gold. Its best form, absolutely standout best form, is at Musselburgh. Its 2 best races were at Musselburgh. Over the distance. So yeah, I think it's well worth putting in, and I think the market will have it much shorter when it's sorted itself out. But 11-2 the field is not right in that race. And then we're going 350 Leopardstown, Irish Panther, as talked about, 28s, and finishing off Leopardstown, switch from diesel 33s. It's the standard 5 horse bet for the channel. 10 times 20p win doubles, 10 times 15p each way trebles, 5 times 15p each way fourfolds, and a 25p each way fivefold. We've then got 50p each way singles on Rian, Irish Panther, switch from diesel. A 75p win single on Mint Gold. No single on Blue Devassi. And a 50p extra 50p each way. So there's a separate extra bet. 50p each way double on Rian and Irish Panther, the 2 handicap horses at Leopardstown. Sky are stand out for extra places, not for prices. But if you want to achieve the prices, the best places to look in terms of the price place combo is 365 Paddy or Betway. 365 Paddy or Betway. 11.75 is that. So total £24. All right, that is me. It ended up being quite long, but hopefully 5 of you found it interesting. And bear in mind, it was free, wasn't it? So rambles are always free with me. Double reminder, 8th of February, next Saturday, channel meet-up at Newbury. It'd be lovely to see as many as you possible. The weather's looking like it's possibly going to be favourable now. It keeps flipping a little bit, but it looks going to be cold and possibly the sun out. That would be delightful, but it flicks, and by the time we get there, we might end up having a bit of sleep. But at the moment, we look all right, so we'll see how we go. But yeah, I'll update in the comments and on the community about what kind of any plans specifically about meeting at a certain point or whatever. But feel free to come along, bring your friends, your other half, whoever it might be. We can just have the afternoon watching the racing, having a few bets, having a bit of a chat, maybe having a beer. Depends on what you're into. So that is that. I'll be there. Oh yeah, what I was going to say at the end as well. I've tried it twice now in terms of putting a message in the community page. I haven't done that before, so some of you will know that there's a thing. If you scroll along from videos, you find there's a thing called community. But it basically allows you to put a post, which as far as I can see, then means people get notifications that I've posted. So in these times when I'm not doing videos, it's quite helpful to do that. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed and you do want to know when I'm doing stuff, then do that. Subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't get any personal details. I don't know who subscribes. I know I keep saying this to people, but people put all these things out saying it's a competition and you need to subscribe. People don't know if you subscribed, right? It's complete rubbish. They just do it as a bit of a swizz to make you do that because it looks good for the numbers. What I'm saying to you is you subscribe if you want to subscribe, but if you want to get the latest information of when I'm doing stuff, subscribe, because then you get a notification. I think you have to turn the bell on, but then you get a notification that basically a little pop up on your little red dot on your phone or whatever that tells you I've posted a comment or I've posted a video. You don't have to. It's entirely up to you, folks. It's free will. Whether you like a video, subscribe to a video, is entirely up to you. But whenever anyone does it, I really, really appreciate it. As I've often said, I'm not here to trying to take over the world, be the biggest. Just doing my thing, staying in my lane. Hopefully some of you will have enjoyed the slight difference in the way that I put the video out for today. All right, that is me. I'll be back next Friday's vid and or Newbury in real life. Thank you very much. Bye bye.